Kritika Nakshatraye Namaha. Namaste everyone. So in today's video, we're going to discuss briefly Kritika Nakshatra. And as some of you know, I'm already having now webinars about the nakshatras and their secrets on Patreon, when you can also join me. So we already had 2 webinars. The first webinar when we were talking about Ashwini Nakshatra, the second webinar about Bharani Nakshatra, and the third one, of course, is going to be dedicated to Kritika Nakshatra, the star of Agni. So it's going to take place in about a month, at the end of July. So you can find all the details in the link below, and if you wish to join me, you're most welcome to do so. So Kritika Nakshatra is very special because in the Vedas themselves, Kritika Nakshatra is actually addressed as the first one. But why it is addressed as the first nakshatra of the zodiac? You see, in those times, you can actually read it in the Puranas. You can read it even in Brihat Samhita, that in those times, when the scriptures were actually written down, the spring equinox was happening exactly when sun was dwelling in Kritika Nakshatra. So this is one of the reasons why it was considered to be the first star. Another reason is that you see, Kritika Nakshatra is presided by Agni, the fire god. And in Vedic thought, whenever you were invoking divine blessings, whenever you were invoking the blessings of God, you would always firstly invite the fire god. Fire god, why? Because he was embodiment of the yajna, the sacrifice, the ritual itself. He was the mediator between heavens and earth, like a divine translator. And you would offer your offering to the yajna, and he would confer your prayer furtherly to all the gods. So even you can read in Rig Veda, there is this beautiful suktam or beautiful hymn to the nakshatras, in which it is explained that Kritika Nakshatra is like mouth, of all other nakshatras, of all other gods. Agnidev himself acts like mouth of all the gods. So he takes all the sacrifices, but also through him, through the fire, we can get divine inspiration. So fire, or Agni, first of all, he gives us light. He gives us light to dispel our darkness. That's why Agni is always connected to the power of inspiration, illumination. When you have this sudden revelation, you realize something very profound, something very important. This is why people with prominent planets in the nakshatra of Agni, which is Kritika, they can frequently be very inspired. They can have lots of divine inspiration in their lives. And keep in mind, it doesn't need to be always planet like Atmakaraka. Sometimes it can be just a very important point in your chart, like Bhrigubindu, which can actually bring this power of inspiration into your life. And not just power of inspiration for you to get it from the divine, but it also gives you the power to inspire others. So especially when 10th Lord or Atmakaraka planet is dwelling there in Kritika Nakshatra, or Bhrigubindu is dwelling there, it might be that the person's destiny will be closely connected with actually inspiring others, taking some beautiful, creative, divine idea and translating it into the world, into the material language. So Agnidev himself, he also blesses us with the power of divine creativity. You'll find definitely that people with prominent placements there in Kritika Nakshatra, they will be very creative, because fire does not only burn, fire does not only destroy, but it also creates. So you can even see artists or people who are just full of creativity in whatever they are doing in life. So Agnidev definitely has this capacity to awaken this creativity within us, this inspiration from within. Agnidev is also frequently addressed as God who leads us to truth in Rig Veda. God who allows us to discern between what is truth and what is a lie. Which is why to say that it's a very bad idea in general to try to lie to a person who has sun or moon in Kritika Nakshatra, because the person has the ability to see through that. Even if the person might not always point it out to you, but the person somehow always feels it and knows it, what is the truth and what is not the truth. That's also symbolized, you see, by the two heads of Agnidev. It's very unusual, isn't it, that Agnidev, he actually has two heads, because he's giving us this ability to discern, to dissect things in a sense, to purify. You know, like fire itself also has this intense purifying ability. It has the ability to remove, for example, all the impurities from gold and remove and, you know, make the gold itself just remain. So same ability, people with planets, especially moon, sun or lagna in Kritika Nakshatra, they have it. And this also gives them this ability to be very precise too. You will also notice that people who have prominent placements in Kritika Nakshatra, they are normally very truthful, very sincere, and they frequently have a lot of integrity as well. But their shadow side is that sometimes they might fail to manifest this truth or communicate this truth in a way that is, you know, gentle and kind. This is where, you know, this burning quality of Agni can come into play. This is where they can sometimes burn their relationships even, you know, because of telling some truths in a way which is too harsh for others to hear. So that is the challenge, you know. This is the challenge that they need to learn and embrace in this life, to learn how to become this divine communicator and to learn that it's not only about the message that you have to deliver to the world. It's not always just about the truth, but the way how you communicate this truth and the way, you know, how you translate it into the world matters as well. It is also said that the fire which resides in our head, Jataragni, he is the fire of divine wisdom, discernment and intelligence. So of course these people can be very well educated sometimes, and they are always very intelligent, you know, they have this very bright mind. Especially Moon himself, you know, dwelling in Kritika Nakshatra, especially in Taurus part of Kritika, this is where Moon actually gets exalted. So the mind is really bright here. The mind can become very brilliant here as well when it comes to receiving information. And I think that that's one of the reasons why Moon is actually getting exalted in Kritika Nakshatra, because here the emotional Moon, whose main, you know, purpose in a sense is to collect all the information, he learns the power of discernment. He learns the power, you know, of choosing wisely what to believe, what not to believe, what to grow, what not to grow. So Kritika Nakshatra definitely, especially over years, gives these people this special type of inner wisdom and precision as well. So with Kritika Nakshatra, there is always something to learn about communication. You see, Agnidev himself, he's frequently addressed as Sapta Jihva, the one having 7 tongues, which is fascinating because you will frequently see, due to that, either translators with this nakshatra, public speakers, even great writers, especially creative writers. So it's always like these natives, they sort of need to learn the same quality like Agnidev is manifesting. The quality of taking the idea, taking the truth, taking some inspiration and translating, communicating it into the world through what they are doing. And because of their precision, because of their love for the truth, unfortunately, one of the most prominent traits of people having strong placements in Kritika Nakshatra is that they can sometimes be too criticizing towards others. They can be too picky when it comes to faults of others, because somewhere internally, you know, they have this this desire that Agnidev himself had, the desire to purify, the desire to transform something, to burn all the impurities. So, of course, they can be great teachers, but it's true that it can be sometimes either overly precise or too picky, on others people's faults, and this is something what they need to learn how to control as well in their life. And it's a very, very important life lesson for them. Otherwise, they may end up just burning the relationships around them. Same like fire is burning. And because Agnidev, he has these 7 tongues, it actually also represents having many, many desires. You see, Agnidev is quite well known that he was actually desirous for other people's wives, for the wives of Saptarishis, or 7 divine sages. And these wives of Saptarishis, they actually represent the Shaktis of our 7 chakras. And our 7 chakras, especially 5 lower chakras, they are all about our senses. So when it comes to sensual pleasures and fulfillment of desires, people with strong placements, again especially Sun, Moon or Ascendant in Kritika Nakshatra, they may have frequently a lot of desires. They may like a lot to please their senses. And don't get me wrong, there is nothing wrong about that as long as you don't break certain boundaries, as long as you don't step into a territory when it starts to be unhealthy and when it starts to actually wear you out. So this becomes a very, very important thing for everybody having any prominent placement in Kritika Nakshatra, to learn how to control one's desires and not to fall prey to them. To always remember that you are actually their master and remind yourself about that. And especially, when it comes to hunger and fine foods, people with this placement might have, a soft spot for that. Because of course, Agnidev, he's also the digestive fire. He has 7 tongues, so he loves pleasant tastes. Which is why, to control this influence, especially if you see that there are too many desires in your life, and especially if you feel this constant lack of fulfillment. Because if there are too many desires, of course it will lead you sooner or later to constant lack of fulfillment too. So if you feel it, a very wise thing to do is to actually fast from time to time. Especially on the day governed by Kritika Nakshatra, so when moon on the sky is actually present in Kritika. Because that will help you to regain your inner strength and to transform your inner fire so it becomes more sattvic. So fire, of course, is all about consuming. And his fuel are, again, the desires that we just talked about. But it's not only about fulfilling sensual desires, you see. Sometimes natives with placements in Kritika Nakshatra, they might have this tendency, to be a little bit like Rahu actually, to consume too much, to get all the knowledge right here, right now, So there is this quality of impatience present there as well. So this is also a very important quality for them to overcome, not to eat too much, not to take too much knowledge at the same time, not to just take more than you're able to digest at the moment. That's really the key word for Kritika Nakshatra. Because please remember, Agnidev himself, he had several stories, in Puranas, where he actually, fallen sick from indigestion because he consumed too much. So that's a very powerful warning. Especially when Rajasic planets are dwelling in Kritika Nakshatra, this is especially Venus and Mercury, they can become very passionate in Kritika Nakshatra too. You see, fire, when he comes in contact with guna of Rajas, he gives birth to loads of very intense passion. So these people may also like very intense experiences in life. They might be also very impatient. But the beautiful thing about them is going to be that whenever they are doing something, they are doing it, with their whole heart, like wholeheartedly. They are putting themselves 100% into what they are doing. And that's actually a really beautiful side of Kritika Nakshatra. And keep in mind that in his highest nature, in his highest octave, Agnidev is the actual god of sacrifice. He teaches us how to perform every action, not to satisfy our senses, not to satisfy our ego, but for some higher purpose. How to do every action and offer it to God, like a sacrificial offering. And that's the most beautiful side of Agnidev, and you can truly see it sometimes, especially when Sattvic grahas are dwelling in Kritika Nakshatra, like Sun, Moon, or Jupiter. You can see how these people can be actually pure and sattvic and sincere in their actions as well, and how they can sometimes be detached from their actions too. It's a very, very beautiful side of Kritika Nakshatra, and actually this is its highest quality, you see, to perform everything for some higher purpose, to perform every action like a sacrificial offering to God. That's what Kritika Nakshatra can bless a native with. And I tell you, when you sometimes see something like that in a chart, sometimes you can really see people who are capable to sacrifice a lot, for some higher purpose. And of course, this purpose itself must be good in the first place, because otherwise even the sacrifice itself can become, not very beneficial. So of course, there's always another extreme, that they can sometimes sacrifice too much as well, and sacrifice too much of themselves too. But that is something that they need to learn how to balance in life. Agnidev himself, as a god, even though he's a fire god, he actually tends to be, through certain Puranic stories, a little bit passive sometimes. It's quite interesting, even the animal he's riding on, Mesha or Ram, it's a sacrificial animal. The same animal, or sometimes a sheep or a goat, which are other sacrificial animals representing, this quality of sacrificing yourself, and animals representing this passiveness, are also associated with Kritika Nakshatra. So it's true, especially when Moon dwells in Kritika Nakshatra, it can become too passive sometimes, especially in Taurus part of Kritika. There might be sometimes this quality of staying too long in your comfort zone, or this quality of having problem with saying no in life. So being overly passive or tolerating too much as well. So this is once again something that needs to be balanced sometimes, because if you will, tolerate something that is really not beneficial for you for too long time, and if you really sacrifice too much, sometimes you will just exhaust yourself a lot after some time. And integrity itself is actually the most recognizable trait of Kritika natives. They really do value integrity. They value truthfulness above anything else in the world. So if you want to be friends with them, make sure that you are always truthful. Make sure that your words match your actions, because that's unbelievably important for them. And of course, certain grahas dwelling there, especially like the nodes or Saturn, they may to a certain extent, deplete this quality within them, and deplete the quality of staying in integrity. But integrity itself will frequently become a very important part of their lives, and it will very frequently be, like something that not they only value a lot in others, but that they need to stick to in their own lives too, because that's their divine purpose. So that was just a very short video about Kritika Nakshatra, just to give you some perspective about the nakshatra itself and its god, Agnidev. So we'll be talking much more in detail about Kritika Nakshatra and Agnidev at the end of July on one of our monthly webinars about the nakshatras on Patreon. So you're most welcome to join us, because we will do there also more study cases, and we will go a little bit more in depth into Kritika Nakshatra itself, its special degrees, and how different grahas are actually behaving and manifesting there. Thank you so much for watching, and namaste.